Hi, good evening. My name's Hisham Wyne, commentator, columnist, journalist, sometimes food explorer, and all-around faffer. And we're here today at Global Village, and there are throngs and throngs and throngs of people. There's a lot of people in Dubai, and they all seem to have wound up here today. We're at the African Pavilion and at the Zanzibar stall, and what we've managed to procure from them is a styrofoam cup special Zanzibar tea and this intriguing looking buff thing, what do they call it?
Mandazi.
Mandazi, that's right, they call it Mandazi. So, I'm actually quite intrigued as to what this is. Before we actually start consumption, I'm going to break this apart for you and sort of see what's on the inside. And on the inside is hollow space, so that seems to be fairly safe. Essentially, slightly sweetened bread. It's not too strong in flavour. I don't quite know how they'd eat it, but what I would suggest is that if you are going to have it with tea or coffee, because it's almost a dippable snack. It's very lightly sweetened. Doesn't seem to be too oily, doesn't seem to be too heavy. But mind you, I don't see this standing alone by itself, so we're going to take a sip of tea with it. Nice piping hot tea, but this is meant to be their special Zanzibar tea, and I'll tell you a little secret. All they've done is that they've made a bit of gullet chai with cardamom. So it is brilliant tea, but it's been done before. And if you don't feel like coming to Global Village for it, go to the local cafeteria and just ask them for a bit of cardamom or elaichi and you're sorted. Massive subcontinental population here, so you've got a lot of Indian and Pakistani food places all over Dubai. However, real, proper, delicious and authentic food, particularly from Pakistan, is often difficult to find. Yes, we know that there are some of our own favourites and supplement stuff, but today we're here at the Global Village. And what we've seen is that they've brought down a name that's quite familiar in Lahore and some other cities. It's called Bundu Khan. And they have a massive reputation for kebabs and for curries. And what we've decided is that we're going to go all out and examine whether the magical Bundu Khan has been brought here to Dubai by Global Village. So, we've got Bihari kebabs, soft and they're somewhat spicy. We've got a halim dish, which is essentially lentils with meat cooked slowly. Afghani kebabs, which are slightly milkier and not as spicy. Chicken karai, which I'm particularly excited about because authentic Lahori karais are difficult to find. Sikh kebabs, biryani, and we've got naan, which is basically leaf bread in a slightly different way. Parathas or puris. It's a cross between both actually. I would think that this is a puri, not a paratha. And now what we're going to do is we're going to try them. And yes, we're going to try all of them. Alright, so we've been effectively picking out here at the Bundu Khan Pakistani restaurant, and everyone's in awe of how much is here on this table. Now, there are two criteria that we're using to examine the food. It is good food, there's no doubt about that, but two things. Does it capture the taste of Pakistani or particularly Lahori cuisine? A. B. Is it worth traipsing down to Global Village to find it? Or can you find acceptable substitutes closer to home elsewhere in the city of Dubai or Abu Dhabi or wherever? Alright, let's start. That was before it got demolished, the chicken karai. I'm going to use some of the paratha. Oh look, more paratha coming in. Always a good idea. Thanks, keep bringing it guys. We're going to use some of that. I've got a little of the karai gravy on my plate and we'll scoop it up into that paratha, make a nice little roll. My nana said some of the spices in it are the German article. It captures the taste. The only issue that I find is this. Because they're mass serving, because they're cooking it extensively as opposed to individually, because normally when you order karai, they cook it to order in a little wok or karai. That's where the name comes from. Here I suspect that they're mass cooking it, so it's a bit oily, I'm afraid, and that takes away from the taste a little. However, if you are in Global Village, I would definitely suggest that you try it. A 9 out of 10 for the halib, because it's very well marinated. They've obviously been cooking it for a very long time. It's essentially lentil, but the threads, the strands that you see are really well cooked, bottom and beef and it makes a nice thick broth. And again, you eat it with your little paratha or your naan. And it's not massively spicy, so you can actually taste the nuances. Some of the halibs that you get in other parts of Dubai are sufficiently spicy that the little intricacies of the food are hidden. This is what's left of the Afghani kebabs. They're known for their lack of spice and for their softness. Now the Afghani kebabs here are average. I'm going to give them about a 6.5 out of 10. It's not that there's anything particularly wrong with them. It's just that there's nothing particularly exciting about them here. I've had better in other parts of Dubai, and to be perfectly honest, you can at least find this quality just about anywhere. You don't have to go looking. Moving on to the sole little sea kebab that's left. If you dip it in this little spicy sauce that they've given along with it, this is categorically a winner. It's spicy, and in my opinion, it's spiced almost to perfection, because it's not just that it's spicy due to the use of chilies, which is very common in a lot of Indian and Pakistani outlets in Dubai, but the way that they've integrated the flavors into the meat, this is an excellent sea kebab experience. This I would heartily recommend. Last, we come to the biryani. Rice with meat. And once again, authentic spicing, great taste. I think slightly suffering from the fact that it too has been cooked in a massive serving probably for all the people around here. Definitely a recommendation, but not necessarily something that I'd recommend that you travel across the city to find, because you'll find other very good biryanis in Dubai. But if you are here, I would definitely suggest that you try them. And then we have a perennial favourite, Bihari kebabs. Bihari kebabs originally, apparently, it has a came from Bihar. Their speciality is, or their defining characteristic is that they're well marinated and well cooked, so they're actually really soft. As you can see they're very squishy and they're coming apart by hand. And let's see how the Bihari kebabs fare. Well garnished, well marinated, overall a winner. The only problem is that there's a lot of competition in the Bihari kebab department in Dubai, because a lot of restaurants have learned the knack of doing good Bihari kebabs because they're so popular. Well, that's it for this particular review, except for one thing. If you're coming to a Pakistani or Indian restaurant, please abandon your knives and forks and eat with your hands, because that really does enhance the culinary experience. If you want to try knife and fork, go Italian or go elsewhere. Alright, so we've made our way to the Palestinian pavilion here, arts, crafts and handicrafts, and what we've come here to try are actually authentic Palestinian desserts. And if you were to fan down here, these little dumplings, rather juicy, are awami. This, tahda, apparently it's a Jordanian Palestinian dessert that you can actually only find here in all of Dubai. If I ever see it elsewhere, I will let you know. Oh, hello. And harise. So we're going to go and have an attempt at all of these. Nice, crispy, incredibly sweet, and very juicy. Utterly recommended. It's a huge favourite. So now, we're going to try the tahda. Sort of like the cake, juicy, moist. It's made from the same plant that is also put into tabbouleh, but I can't quite figure the name out. So here we go. Very nice and nuanced. Not as sweet as the dumplings as the urme. Different layers, different flavors. It's got a very interesting base taste, which I really like. Very, very good actually. I'm a fan. And lastly, I've got different categories of harissa. We're going to try the one that's easily accessible. Here. Looks very juicy. They haven't spared the oil here. Has a fairly unique taste. Rather sweet, of course not as sweet as the urme. Slightly sweeter than the dakhla though. And I think it's a bit difficult to rate all these desserts on a scale of 1 to 10, so I'm just going to tell you my ratings in terms of preference of what I have here. If you're looking for a quick pick-me-up, I'd say the dumplings, just because of the crispy sweetness and juiciness, come in at number 1, easy. So, my favourite, the urme. Number 2 is the dakhla. Not only is it not very easily available apparently, but the nuances of its taste and the fact that it isn't overwhelmingly sweet actually allows you to appreciate it a bit more. And the harissa is also robust and tasty, but somewhat generic, I felt. And it's also available in a lot of other places, so you wouldn't necessarily have to come down to Global Village for it. But definitely come down to the dakhla, and while you're here, don't go home without the urme.